Hey there. Now we're going to spend some time talking about intros and closings specifically. And this could be, in your training demo, your informational, or your persuasive talk, however you want to do it. So let's get right into it. All right. So you want to think about, here's a metaphor for you. Go with me on this. You want to think about putting together your presentation like making a cake. I don't know how many of you have made a cake before. I have not. But I think that we can all understand the metaphor. Okay. So in the beginning, you want to show them this cake, all right? So you want to think about the very beginning of your talk as being like showing them like the very best part of your speech, like the icing on the cake. Like here is the best thing that you're going to eat first, right? So that's your hook or your attention grabber. Because if you showed them this, if you were like, here's the meat of what we're going to talk about today, bare bones, no frills, nobody would want to eat that cake because that cake looks terrible. Everybody wants this cake. They want to see the icing, the prettiness, et cetera, et cetera. So you can think about your intro as that, like what is like the very best part of your talk. Okay. Why do we do that? Like, why is it important to put that right up front? It's because your audience, just like meeting you in real life, whenever they meet you in your talk, they're going to judge you. It's a first impression, okay? And they found that they, will usually make up a mind about your message within the first 30 to 60 seconds, and it becomes very difficult, to change their mind or get them back. So it's important to be really good up front and put a lot of effort into your intro, because if you don't do a good job there, the rest of your speech will kind of be lost on the crowd. So here are a couple different ways to, get at sort of capturing their attention early on. And I got some others written down here. But you can always share like a shocking statistic. Like, 9 out of 10 people love statistics. So you could do that. You could also start with a quote. Sometimes it feels a little bit hokey, but it may be appropriate for your talk. You just go, run with it. If you ain't first, you're last, says Bricky Bobby, one of my heroes. You could do a personal story. So that's a good thing, right? Because people, we gravitate to stories. This is why we love to hear, sort of narratives, especially in our political speech. A lot of politicians will do this. They'll, if they're advocating for some, kind of abstract policy, then they'll tell a personal story to put, to put a face on it to make it more relatable. And you can do the same thing with your speech. Like maybe you're talking about, how like the corn prices affect, families in, Iowa or someplace that grows corn. And you could start with a personal story about a particular farmer, et cetera, et cetera. And it kind of humanizes it, right? And then we want to learn about it because we want to know what happens to Johnny the farmer, okay? You could show a short video as long as it's relatable. I kind of don't like advocate for this very much, especially in this class because we're judging you on your ability to talk. But just know that out there in life, that's a thing that you can do. You don't want to be second fiddle to the video is what I'm saying. Like you want to use it to augment your speech. You could show a really good picture if you got one. I went to a talk one time that happened to be about climate change and leadership and climate change and whatnot, because that's what I study is leadership. And it was a before and after picture of Glacier National Park, one from like 1930 and one from today. And basically there's no glacier left. And that was just stunning, because you're like, oh my God, like this is a real thing. And so it really captured everybody's attention. And then they wanted to know, like what rate is this and what's being done to fix it and all this good stuff. Some other ones is you could open with a thought-provoking question, because people automatically, if you pose them with a question, they want to try to answer it in their head. And if you then go on to give them the information, then it's kind of like, oh, like they set me up and then they gave me the information and now like I've been successful as an audience member. The same thing with you could, give them a problem to solve. Like you could open with a problem. Like, one of the biggest problems facing agricultural education today is X. And then in their heads, like, and again, in the background, they start thinking about like, what can we do about this? How do I solve this? And as you go through your speech and you're giving them information, then they're able to kind of put it together. So it's good. You can refer to a current event. That's another one that you can do. if you happen to be giving a talk about some agriculture policy and the president just happened to have made some statement or a tweet, as it were, on it just recently, like you can refer to that, because then it seems like it makes your topic seem much more like relevant and out there and in national news, et cetera, et cetera. So those are just a couple of good ones. Really, the sky's the limit. You can also just Google like great ways to open a speech, there's lots of good ways out there. But these are some of the sort of tested ones that we feel like you could handle. There's another picture of a cake. All right. So in the middle part is the part where you actually eat. Remember that this meaty middle, like this is the cake is mostly what you're eating. We always see the icing in the beginning. That's what entices us over, but most of what you're eating is cake. So you want to think about your different objectives and the way that you organize your body content as sort of building up, the layers of this cake to make it have substance, okay? And so in the middle, one of the couple things that you want to do to keep people's attention as you want to show application, right? So that can be done in a couple ways. Like you can show pictures, charts, graphs, question and answers, or videos, or sound clips, whatnot, in the beginning to sort of drive home your points. You can, again, think of this as part of the cake without icing. Like this is the meat of it. Although I'm mixing my metaphors here because nobody eats meat cakes. But anyhow, and so whenever you get to the end, what you want to do is put your cake together. All right, that's a cake, believe it or not, that count. And so we're going to take, the icing that we hooked them with at the beginning that they want some kind of closure on, and we're going to take, all the layers that we built up with our body content, like our, like all of our information about, ethanol or corn policy or whatever it is. And then we're gonna put it all together in some fun package and like put a bow on it and send them out into the world. Okay, and so you can do this at the end of your talk with verbal question and answer at the end. You can just have a review if you want to keep it simple. You can have a game that you can play. There can be some activity or handout or worksheet or something that they can do. So sometimes this is good because you're effectively killing two birds with one stone, right? Like you're doing the audience interaction and you're also using it as the impetus for a review. So for example, like if you did a worksheet, like you could give them time to work on it. They get to try to, put together all the stuff that they learned and apply it. And then, you go over the answers and then we all get a review, right? And that seems very simple, but a lot of people wouldn't do that. They just talk at you for 13 minutes and nobody wants that. So good. All right. Hey, that's it. We hope that you had a good time, and don't forget to write out your closing there. And if you have any questions, great. Otherwise, I look forward to reading your informational talks.
Riders on the storm, riders on the storm. Into this house we're born, into this world we're thrown. Like a dog without a bone, an actor out on loan. Riders on the storm.